跑2趟，现车有的是0公里的有的是，带公里数的比较少。支持消防车。
周五，中国卫健委宣布，武汉防控指挥部对疫情数据进行修改。截至周四，确诊病例增加325例，死亡病例增加1290例。有网友质疑，武汉纠正后的确诊人数和死亡人数相差965人，唯一解释就是依然瞒报死亡人数。
疫情早期，由于收治能力不足，少数医疗机构未能及时与疾病预防控制信息系统对接，医院超负荷运转，医务人员忙于救治，客观上存在一些迟报、漏报、误报的现象，但从不存在瞒报，也不与。
这是他们所谓塌方的庄户呢，往后就是工地。工地这点已经被挖断了，3-4米深的沟，3-4米深的沟，几个小孩，4个小孩的，从这点上翻过去，再翻过这个沟，然后跑到那个挖土机那边，几百米的路程都没有施工人员发现吗？更蹊跷的是，4个小孩埋到了一个坑里，而且那个坑周围并没有塌方的。
民主派立法会议员表示，18日发生规模空前的大搜捕行动，与中共中联办及港澳办的声明在时间上太巧合。一方面在立法会选举前营造白色恐怖，另外一方面在为本届立法会完成基本法23条铺路。
2020年4月18號。
5大訴求缺一不可，公民抗命，無畏無懼。
你講政府係冇用嘅，你叫佢做乜係？
No Tedros for WHO. It's a travesty of humanity. No Tedros for WHO. No Tedros for WHO. Africa, think again. Think again.
这是2017年5月22号 WHO 干事长选举前一天世界卫生大会上的情景。伊索比亚运动人士高声抗议，要大家不要选伊索比亚候选人谭德赛担任世界卫生组织干事长。隔一天结果出炉，就是由谭德赛出任。但有人抗议绝不是没有原因。
Most of the people who treat prisoners in such a cruel manner are from Dr. Tedros Adhanom's party called TPLF. The core of the tyranny, killing, detaining, torturing, and jailing ordinary people.
外媒揭露，谭德赛所属的提格雷人民解放阵线，1975年在伊索比亚北部的提格雷成立，与中国共产党一样，是以马克思列宁主义为原教旨的左派政党。 1991年夺得伊索比亚的政权后，奉行恐怖统治，滥捕残杀异见者，强占国内最大族群奥罗莫人的土地，而谭德赛在其中扮演重要角色。
One of the few decision makers of the Tigray People Liberation Front. That makes him responsible for all abuses that his regime is committing against defenseless civilians.
女记者身后就是谭德赛在提格雷人民解放阵线中的照片。提格雷人民解放阵线在1990年代被美国视为恐怖组织，到现在还被列在马里兰大学的全球恐怖主义资料库当中。在这次中共肺炎疫情中，谭德赛与中共一搭一唱，随中共隐匿疫情，造成全球大流行。15号，有网友在美国白宫请愿联署网站 We the People 发起联署，要在国际法庭指控中国共产党政权与世界卫生组织领导人大屠杀。新唐人亚太电视张麒麟综合报道。
是到外武德街江样，看看，撵了，严了。
The question was asked, would you be angry at China? Well, the answer might very well be a very resounding yes, but it depends. Was it a mistake that got out of control, or was it done deliberately? Okay, there's a big difference between those two. In either event, they should have let us go in. You know, we asked to go in very early, and they didn't want us in. I think they were embarrassed. I think they knew it was something bad, and I think they were embarrassed.
The government has been under fire for weeks over the distribution of PPE. After previously insisting that supplies were reaching the NHS, it's now admitted that's not always the case. So far, serious shortages of equipment have only been seen in England. Labour says the government must work harder to guarantee continual supplies.
Germany's largest tabloid newspaper, Bild, has rather helpfully drawn up an itemised invoice. On it, you'll see a €27 billion charge for lost tourism revenue between March and April, up to €7.2 billion for the German film industry, €1 million an hour for German airline Lufthansa, and €50 billion for German small businesses. That makes a grand total of €149 billion, give or take. Bild reckons that's about €1,784 per person if Germany's GDP falls by 4.2%. The invoice appeared in the paper on Wednesday under the title of What China Owes Us.
This week, Australian authorities outlined a roadmap towards the easing of restrictions. To get there are 3 criteria that need to be met: broadening the testing regime, getting better at identifying the causes of infection clusters, and setting up a better way to contain those outbreaks. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says those measures need to be in place within 4 weeks.
If you think about what China did over the course of this thing, they did 4 things that led to the deaths of many people worldwide. I mean, first of all, the virus was spawned in China. Second of all, they hid the virus behind the shield of the World Health Organization. The third thing they did was basically hoard personal protective equipment, and now they're profiteering from it. And if you walk through that, you were one of the first in the media to raise the question of whether that P4 lab was involved. That's an interesting issue. What we know is that the ground zero for this virus was within a few miles of that lab. If you simply do an Occam's razor approach, that the simplest explanation is probably the most likely, I think it's incumbent on China to prove that it wasn't that lab. So that's number one. But more importantly, we know that for a critical 6-week period of time, China used its influence at the World Health Organization to hide the virus from the world. This was a time where that virus could have been contained in Wuhan. Instead, 5 million Chinese people went out from Wuhan and propagated the virus around the world. That was a critical time. So that was that. And then here's what I think should be very disturbing to every American. During that period of time, that 6-week interval when they were hiding this virus from the world, China went from a net exporter personal protective equipment. They are the largest producer of that in the world, to a large net importer. They basically went around and vacuumed up virtually all of the PPE around the world, including a lot from this country, which was for humanitarian reasons, sharing our PPE with them. And what that did was leave people in New York, Milan, and everywhere in between defenseless when it came time to have that PPE. Now, what's happening today, which is equally alarming, is China is sitting on that hoard of PPE where it cornered the market, and it's profiteering. I have cases that are coming across my desk where 50-cent masks made in China are being sold to hospitals here in America for as much as $8.
Unbelievable.
This is a situation.
I remember a month ago when I got a call from a leading hospital executive who said to me, Maria, there are masks and gloves, protective equipment that were on a ship coming from China to America. Those ships were told to turn around, that China said, we're not keeping any commitments that we had to export any of this stuff. China wants it. And then, as you point out, they cornered the market. They already produce half of the world's capacity of this protective gear, and yet they were in the market buying 2 billion additional masks in January. Peter, I don't understand what's going on here. I mean, this is even more sinister than we thought. First, this virus escapes, sickens the world, and then they turn around and try to make it harder for the United States to get the products they need.
Why would the CCP, why the Chinese Communist Party, why would they suppress this information? Why would they shut down the lab in Shanghai who's trying to report on the original genome sequencing of this? Why are they not being forthcoming in giving information to the world on this virus?
Yes, sir. Just as Miles Guo mentioned an hour ago, right? And because Lude Media, at the beginning of January, they discovered that the sequence of this virus has shared a very same identical sequence with a genome-modified beta virus, which was changed or modified by the Nanjing Command, the Institute of Military Medicine, back in 2018. Okay, at that time, the reason the Chinese military modified the bat virus is to make it more transmissible, has higher infectability, so that it can allow across-species transmission. Okay, so the sequence published by this scientist in Shanghai also revealed the same identical sequence information. I think the CCP suppressed this information out of fear because they want to hide the truth from not only from its own people, but from the rest of the world, that hiding their true intention.
We're going to get up on the site. We're going to get up on the site everything from the Shanghai, all this situation. We're going to put the timeline together, the real timeline that the American people and the people of the world, and like someone said, I think Bill Gertz, much of the medical community, remember, we gave grants to, NIH gave grants, the CDC worked on the CDC thing. The world's medical community has to understand what's going on here, and they have to speak truth to power to the Chinese Communist Party. They have to stop looking at that as a paymaster. They have to stop looking at that as somebody that will fund research. They have to work with the world to have a full disclosure. And full disclosure means that elements of the World Health Organization, once under new management, and the CDC and others, get to go to Wuhan, get to go to these labs. And we also have to confront the fact that we know it's an open secret in the intelligence community that they have an offensive biological warfare program that is specifically forbidden by the 1984 treaty that Deng Xiaoping signed. Is one of his, they had to sign it, right, to get access to all Western capital. They've lied about this from day one.
最大的问题就是共产党的合法性问题。两件事是我们这3年来 最核心的问题。大家记住，共产党只要有钱、有情报系统在，我们每个战友都是危险的，我们每个战友的家人都是危险的。我可以告诉大家，这个对共产党在海外，就是说，你先把他这个合法性打掉，才能动他的钱。第一步，绝不在任何地方、任何案子就在国会山。在这种情况下，战友们，我们要第一个要下了共产党的枪。记住，我从爆料开始说，共产党没钱了就没有任何人，共产党没有国内的市场控制的权利和绑架14亿的合法政权，没有人。就中南科那10来个人、20个人就绑架了全中国人，威胁了全世界，就这么简单的破事儿。还有一个最核心的，不是那么简单，共产党在西方的金融系统，这个金融系统你要给它毁不掉，那他这个像八爪鱼一样，你砍一个它又长一个，你砍一个又长一个，他用各种办法，它都能存在。美国整北朝鲜、整伊朗整多少年了？整伪呢整多少年了？你看他还活着呢，不是说是万能的，但对共产党来讲，这个事儿可是了不得。大家知道为什么？共产党他那个机器需要的这个金钱和供血太大了，他一旦没有了这么大量的财富来供养这个邪恶的机器和他海外的私生子女和海外潜藏的间谍网，他撑不下去的。